Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Land, episode 2. We're going to get started in about 12 minutes or so. Hello, everybody. Meanwhile, welcome to This Land.
Doing a great job of keeping your videos muted and microphones muted, so it's great.
Hello, everybody. Meanwhile, welcome to This Land.
Doing a great job of keeping your videos muted and microphones muted, so it's great.
Hello, everybody. Meanwhile,
Hello. Enjoy the show today.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. As you come in, just make sure that your mics are muted. And I think we're going to be starting up in about 10 minutes now. So we're so excited that you're here. Thank you. Also, hi, Dad. Hi, Sue. It's really good to see that you're here.
And welcome again, everyone. Thanks for coming in to our Zoom meeting performance. My name is Ricky Pack, and I am the Artistic Director of Circle Squared Collective. We'll be starting in just a few more minutes. We have a couple more people on our RSVP list that have not logged in yet, so we're going to give them a few minutes to get here. Thank you so much for zooming in. I know that you have your choice of shows. Thanks for coming in to our Zoom
Why is this always echoing?
meeting performance. My name is Ricky Pack, and I am the Artistic Director of Circle Squared Collective. We'll be starting in just a few more minutes. We have a couple more people on our...
That's why. That's the live stream. Okay, this is a big experiment, y'all. But we'll start in just a few minutes.
Enjoy the show. So excited to start.
And speaking of starting, I think that let's go ahead and slowly get to starting. So if we have all the actors, go ahead and come back on, unmute your screens. I think we still have maybe one other person on our audience list coming in, so we'll just keep an eye out for that person. But welcome everyone. Let's see here. Okay, great. Excellent. And just give me 1 second. Great. I think, are we seeing our lovely faces here? Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello. Oh, you don't see me. Oh, there I am. Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Like I said, I think we still have 1 or 2 other people on our audience list that are supposed to be coming, so we'll just pop them right in if they come in late. Late seating is an option here on Zoomland. So, but I just want to say welcome. My name again is Ricky Pack, and I'm the artistic director of the Circle Squared Collective. And again, on behalf of our associate artistic directors, Yvette Herrera, doing a wave, and Whitney Tenney Pack, yay! We welcome you to episode 2 of This Land. So, housekeeping before we start. Just make sure that please keep your audience members, please keep your videos and microphones muted during the performance. We don't care about your cell phones. Your cell phones can stay on for all we care. But we don't want you to accidentally be part of the show. So make sure, if you haven't already, I mean, all of you seem to be doing well with your Zoom technology skills, which is nice. So the mute and for your microphone and your video are down at the bottom left corner of your screen. The other thing to help out to optimize the performance is on the top right corner where it says view. If you click on that, you want to make sure that you're in gallery view, and you want to make sure that you click hide non-video participants as well. At some point during the show, we will be inviting you all to join a smaller group of us into breakout rooms. So when it asks you to join a breakout room, select join breakout room. You'll be in for a special treat that only our audience members get, as opposed to our live stream audience on YouTube. They kind of miss out on that part of the show, but they should have been here, right, McGurr? All right. Okay, and let's see what else. Oh, and just note that sometimes when we come back out of our breakout room, for some Zoomers, it automatically switches us back into speaker view. So just be aware of that. You might want to just double check when you come back out of that breakout room that your settings are still set for gallery view to get the most out of the performance. So I think, let's see. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So again, welcome. And one thing that we wanted to make clear about our performance tonight is that, we said this last week. I'm repeating a lot of stuff just because, we have to. But this is a big experiment, and we've spent the whole summer experimenting on Zoom, figuring out not how do we recreate live theater on Zoom, because there's no real way to recreate live theater on Zoom. But instead, what we were interested in seeing is what could we do with Zoom itself to make it theatrical. And so that's what we really explored, and that's what we are very happy and proud to present in the form of these 3 short episodes. And we had a lot of fun creating the show, and I hope that you all have fun watching it as well. Now, one of the things that we've been doing in the theater world before we begin any performance is that we begin with a land acknowledgement. And actually, let me do this as well. I did this last week, but there's new audience members as well. So I'm dropping into the chat right now a little website link called nativeland.ca. If you want to click on that, you can go ahead and enter under the search bar. When you open that up, there's a search bar. You can put in your zip code, and you can find out what ancestral Native American tribes lands you currently reside on. So we at Circle Squared Collective would like to acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, Firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the Chumash, the Gabrielino Tongva, the Kich, the Kumeyaay, and Yokut, the indigenous people on whose ancestral lands our cast currently dwells. And we invite our audience to use that website if you can, or if you already know. Type in the name of the peoples of the tribes where you currently reside, just so that we can acknowledge and pay our respect to our indigenous brothers and sisters. And I think that beyond just making the land acknowledgement, because that's kind of a thing that we do now in theater, I think it's important that I think that's important that we just take this moment to reflect on the roles of our ancestors in the forced removal, stolen land, and genocide committed in order to create the nation that we live in and that we benefit from today. And I say this not as a means to lay guilt or blame or make us feel bad, but really it's to provide a starting point to learn and grow from our mistakes and wrongdoing, so that we don't become doomed to repeat our history. And I don't know, history is a big thing, I think, for this show. I think it's been on the minds of our cast all summer and all fall as we've created this show, because we are living in history right now. Our history is our present. And so now is the time for us to try to right our wrongs, to try to learn and grow, to try to understand who we are as a nation. Which brings us to this land. So our show was created through a very generous grant from the Syracuse University Office of Undergraduate Research and Creative Engagement. Through that office, we were able to fund our student research assistant. Do you guys want to wave? Say hi. And they worked all summer long to help create the show by interviewing people whose stories you're about to hear. So the original plan was that we were going to send our student RAs to the various different battleground states, so that they can conduct interviews with people on the street and kind of get their opinions on who they were planning on voting for in the 2020 presidential election, and ask them why. But then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we had to rapidly shift our plans. And instead of canceling the production and the project altogether, we decided that we would move things, the interview process onto Zoom and FaceTime, Google Hangouts, Skype, whatever other, I don't even know. Did you guys TikTok? Is that a thing? No, I don't know. I don't know how TikTok works. So while we were super happy that we were able to continue and go forward with the project and gather these interviews, the unfortunate side effect was that by the nature of access to technology, or really the lack of access to technology, it really impacted who we were able to interview. So we just wanted to acknowledge that the stories and voices that you're about to hear are definitely unintentionally biased towards people who come from a position in life where they could afford the technology to be interviewed, and could afford the time, as well as the mental and physical space, to not worry about the pandemic for a few minutes and speak with our research assistants. Now, despite these limitations, I believe, though, with my whole heart, that we were able to get a very fair cross-section of the American voice, as wide of a cross-section as we possibly could. And again, our hope here is not to try to sway anyone from their own political beliefs, but rather that we come to an understanding of who we are as a people and citizens of this country, so that we learn from the history that we are currently living in and not doom ourselves to repeat the wrongs of our past. So, thank you for letting me stand on the soapbox for a few minutes and let you know our thought process a little bit into the show. Actors, are you all ready to begin? Yeah? Okay, then Places, which in Zoom land means they're going to mute their screens. And without further ado, this is episode 1. Episode 2 of This Land.
We appreciate that you have taken the time to speak to us about your personal experiences. Your interview will be used for character and script creation for a documentary theater-style play, tentatively called This Land. By giving us permission, we may create characters based on the people we interview. We will remain accurate to your interview and use verbatim information whenever possible, although we retain the right to edit the words and story to fit the needs of the final play. We will not violate the spirit of the original words and interview. We will strive to not misrepresent you in any way, shape, or form. We may use this interview as inspiration for monologues, scenes, movement pieces, or digital media. No actual images or recordings of the interview will be used without your express written or verbal consent. All recordings will be destroyed upon the completion of the project. Lastly, if there is any question you are not comfortable answering, please feel free to abstain. The point of this interview is not for us to sway you, nor is it for you to sway us. So please don't hesitate to elaborate on your thoughts.
As long as the reason of man continues fallible, and he is at liberty to exercise it, different opinions will be formed.
News is a lot more easily accessible from Instagram than it is from like my local news station, like Channel 7, because I think with online news sources, there is like this this need to sort of remain like civil, I guess. It's very like straightforward, to the point, like this happened, this is what I think, this is why I think you should do that. And it's a lot easier to get what you need out of that information rather than the fluffy stories and articles that come from a lot of these like news stations and websites.
I come from like Ronald Reagan country. Like everyone I know still thinks that they live like in the era of Ronald Reagan. So they're still waiting for trickle down economics. For the first time ever, I'm talking to farmers and they're talking about Trump and the Republican Party screwing up. Nothing to do with racism or any of that stuff, nothing to do with COVID, but because of trade wars with Canada that discouraged the dairy farmers here. So yeah, a lot of farmers love Trump for everything except ruining their livelihood. I don't think they're for Biden. I don't even think they're gonna vote at all, but they got screwed.
I don't remember my parents talking about politics growing up. I can tell you now. I know for sure my mother is definitely Democrat and my father is definitely evangelical Republican. I cannot discuss politics with my father anymore. He loves to debate, and my mom said when they work together, she knows for a fact that he would take a stance that he did not agree with just because he wanted to debate with somebody about it. And I don't find that so. My dad is very, very intense.
When I think about the person, there's got to be a sense of morality and integrity in the individual. You know, if I were to think of a perfect candidate, this is like the Christian answer, Jesus. You know, he stood for truth. He stood for morality. He helped others. And that's what I'd want to see.
A zeal for different opinions concerning religion, concerning government, and many other points have, in turn, divided mankind into parties, inflamed them with mutual animosity, and rendered them much more disposed to vex and oppress each other than to cooperate for their common good.
Having to make the decision like this person is so dangerous and awful, I have to vote for anyone who's not going to be as bad as him. Like how unfair of a situation that is for, for a woman of color, a Jewish woman, a queer person, just sitting there being like, why do I have to do that if you don't? I mean, like when is the world going to represent me and my choices?
I actually wasn't going to vote in the beginning, but my mind has changed and my main priority is that Trump gets out of the White House. But I hate Joe Biden. I hate him. When Tara Reid came out with her allegations against him, I it's a personal issue for me because I'm also a survivor of sexual abuse. So to see how the Democratic Party just totally swept it under the rug and didn't investigate it at all, like some of them either didn't address it or flat out came out and said she was lying. It really just felt like a slap in the face because I feel like the Democrats have always been the party to be like, to care about women and survivors, but seeing the way that they responded to that was super disheartening. And it made me realize that the Democrats and Republicans might not be that different at all. They both were so willing to take this trauma and weaponize it because, like, the Democrats did go after Kavanaugh, and I feel like they stood up for Dr. Ford, but they didn't do the same thing when it became inconvenient.
COVID couldn't have been more mishandled, and to turn people's health into a political issue is shameful. And on that same note, his fighting against Obamacare, taking away insurance, number one. Number two, the people have pre-existing conditions. I'm a pharmacist by trade. And this will sound almost paranoid, but I truly believe that big insurance runs our country. And I think most political candidates are bought and sold by big insurance. And, people talk about pharmaceutical companies, and I'm not saying that they're not players in this, but the insurance companies are at a level that I don't think people have any idea how much insurance companies control what happens in this country.
Because a lot of things make me angry, and a lot of things make me upset with how we are. I'm upset with police brutality. I'm upset with how we treat most Blacks in our country. I'm upset with the fact that we're still having this debate about gays. Like, only this year do we have a Supreme Court decision where you can't get fired because you're gay. Like, this was a thing we're still debating on. So, there are a lot of things that make me angry. But if I'm being completely honest, they don't affect my life, or I'm confident that they're not actually going to. I'm going to actually have to get up and fight about it, so I don't. And that shouldn't be the response I should have. The response should be, there are other people hurting, and I should care about this, and I should do something about this.
I feel that I'm a big proponent of not feeding into the lesser of two evils strategy. I believe that's been the Democratic strategy for the last 20 years. And I think the more people do it, the more it gets enforced, that those are the candidates people will settle for. And many people have. A lot of people say, oh, well, that's a privileged position to have. And while I am a privileged person, people like Malcolm X and others have spoken, and working class people around the world have spoken about sitting on your vote and not voting for candidates unless they earn the vote. And I don't think the two candidates this year have earned the vote.
The latent causes of faction are thus sown in the nature of man, a zeal for different opinions concerning religion, concerning government, and many other points have, in turn, divided mankind into parties, inflamed them with mutual animosity, and rendered them much more disposed to vex and oppress each other than to cooperate for their common good.
Basically, I am in support of Democrats. However, I'm not going to be voting Democrat this year because I'm back in the 2016 election, I did see that Hillary Clinton, I didn't think that she would do a lot. And I also thought that Obama would have done a lot of a lot of bad stuff, like the deporter in chief or whatever. He did a lot of drone strikes, I think, more than any other president. I did know that some stuff was bad and that Hillary Clinton seemed like just a continuation of the bad, and that Donald Trump was also super bad, and that but in a different way. And then I saw how the Democratic Party kind of took the nomination away from Bernie Sanders and gave it to Hillary Clinton. I need healthcare, I need racial equality and stuff like that, and it didn't seem Biden did, because he made the 1994 crime bill. And Donald Trump is doing a lot of bad stuff, but not the fact that he can do bad stuff, more like an indictment on our system. So I basically just felt super disillusioned with the Democratic Party, even though that's always what I voted. And so this time I'm going to be voting green. And maybe by 2024, make room for a third party.
Voice of Jade Hendrickson. Disempower, verb, make a person or group less powerful or confident. Finally, I offer this thought. It seems to me that far too many Catholics are Republican or Democrat first, Catholic second. This was certainly my experience with members of Congress, but I think it is also true for too many of us who are not involved directly in politics. The answer to the partisan divisions among Catholics is not to be found with reform in politics, but with a greater focus on Christ. He is the center of everything. Allowing Christ to be eclipsed by a party, a candidate, or an ideology is why we are in the mess we are in.
Hi. Ugh,
Hello.
I'm just working on this paint by numbers still. Woo, forever. Ugh.
Hey, so good to see you. You're
You
just
are, you are.
doing.
Hi.
I forgot my loom.
Oh well.
It's totally okay. You know, we were just talking about the election next week, but we I guess we sort of had this unwritten rule that we just don't talk politics.
Because that's one of the fastest ways to create enemies. Because your grandparents are diehard Democrats.
And we're diehard Republicans, so that's like oil and water if you ever sign up for the conversations.
But I'm an only child. So there was a lot of kind of adult level conversation that I was, I don't know, like kind of expected to participate in. For better or for worse, right? Like it wasn't like there was a lot of kid level conversation at the table. It was like, we're going to talk about politics and you can zone out or you can join in.
Mm-hmm. You know, when we used to get together for a big dinner at Christmas time and so forth, because we used to have that thing where at Christmas time we'd go to each other's houses.
Yeah. And we'd go up to Coopersburg to your grandparents' house, or they'd come down here to our house with the Franks and the Codys.
But we don't get into politics because that's one of the fastest ways to create a heated discussion and possibly losing friends. And you don't want to do that over something that you can't control.
You know, you can control how you vote and so forth.
But you can't control the overall will of the country or the direction that the politicians have you going.
But to get into that conversation, it's like religion. I mean, you don't discuss religion either for that same reason. I mean, what you believe is your belief, and
you believe is your belief, but what
I
believe
is my belief. Exactly.
You believe is your belief, but I believe is my belief.
What you believe is your belief, but what I believe is my belief.
You know, I was just talking to my dad about this the other day because we were talking about how different I would be if I didn't go to camp in the summer. And I'm a third generation camper at like an all girls sleepaway camp in like rural Maine. And their whole thing is like empowering women to be individuals and stand on their own feet and be self-sufficient. And like from 8 years old, I was in charge of, there's like a schedule. The way the camp works is you get a schedule for your age group and there's like periods, kind of like school. And there's 4 or 5 choices of activities like canoeing, sailing, drama, art, like outdoor survival skills, archery, things like that. And like I could choose how my day looked. It's just something that seems kind of trivial, like crafting my own day. Like and being away from my parents at such a young age for a long period of time, like in the summer, maybe planted the seeds of like, okay, I'm a person outside of my parents. I'm making friends from all over the world. Not only can I live away from my parents, I can live without technology and without electricity and tents and be outside. And I found that I like being outside for long periods of time, like recalibrates me in a way, being away from them, but also being outside. Anything that like changes my scenery, if that makes sense, if I'm getting air. And because self-care there was really good. I was always drinking water, I was always in the sun, I was exercising a lot, and like being encouraged to have my own thoughts, and my life was full of music too. And I knew that, okay, something doesn't feel right in this home situation. There is another way, there is an alternative. And I'm still like figuring out how all that, like, I'm still sorting it all out inside. But I understand the tangles and like where the separations are between myself and my parents, like more and more as time goes on. And I feel like it might have started by going away, like being alone for periods of time. So it wasn't like a political camp, but also my directors were lesbians. And they didn't broadcast that. They still haven't come out to the camp community, but they live together at camp and all year round, and they both have had kids with other marriages, and they like divorced their husbands or their husbands died, and they live together and they sleep in the same room. And I'm just like, I think that over the years, like that subtle influence, I think that there's a lot of that thought in my household that you're a girl, you're a woman, and this is what it is. This is what that is. And they don't realize, like, they think they're sending me to let my grandmother, my conservative ass grandma, went to this camp in like 1912. They sent me to this like conservative camp. And like meanwhile, it's teaching me to subtly challenge gender norms and be out and about and like learning survival skills. And I'm realizing that was big. Like I'm trying not to live my life with like a foundation of fear.
All right, and so our audience is now in the breakout rooms. And so at this time, what we're going to do is actually, while the live audience is inside the breakout rooms getting a one show, we're going to turn to our live stream audience and ask them if they have any questions. And we're going to have two of our cast members here. If you guys want to pop in, please. And we'll see if anyone responds to our questions. They're on a delay too, so it might take a little bit. Here we are. What was the biggest surprise for you in hearing people's thoughts through these interviews? What was the most special part?
일단 저는 주변에 투표를 하는 사람들이 별로 없어서 사람들이 얘기를 많이 들을 수가 없었는데 지금은 이제 좀 들을 수 있고, 그리고 일단은 여러 사람들의 의견을 듣는다는 것 자체가 일단 너무 좋았고, 그리고 놀라웠고, 그리고 많은 사람들의 아픔까지도 느낄 수 있어서 왜 이 사람을 투표하는 데 있어서 그 사람에 대해서 그 expectation만 있는 게 아니라 내 퍼스널한 그런 이야기들이 왜 이 사람을 꼭 투표를 해야 되는지, 왜 보트를 해야 되는지에 대해서 좀 이렇게 모티베이션을 저에게 알려줘서 저도 이제 만약에 시리즌이 된다면 꼭 투표를 하고 싶습니다.
What about you, Yvette?
Para mí lo que me gustó en oír toda la gente hablar es lo que les afecta a cada persona es diferente. Lo que es importante para una persona es diferente para la otra. Y era muy interesante saber por qué alguien iba a votar y para quién. Me gustó oír todos los diferentes historias de cada persona. Me gustó saber también por qué alguien iba a votar y estaba muy interesante.
Great. And adding to that question is, was there anything that surprised you? What was a moment that surprised you?
항상 모먼트 메이킹을 하면 느끼는 건 내가 인텐셔널하게 이 장면을 가지고 오지 않아도 사람들이 다 내 장면을 통해서 어떤 스토리를 만들어낸다는 것 자체가 일단은 제일 서프라이즈한 모먼이에요. 그건 항상 있었던 모먼이고, 그래서 어쨌든 나의 씬이 지금 내가 의도하지 않았지만 지금 이렇게 공연이 되어지고 있는 것 자체가 일단은 제일 많이 서프라이즈한 모먼인 것 같아요.
What about you, Yvette?
Para mí era casi lo mismo lo que dije. Era muy interesante y lo que me sorprendió mucho es oír cada historia de cada persona y cada persona tenía diferentes ideas y oí mucho de gente mayor y oír sus historias y ver cómo eran las cosas y cómo están hoy. Era muy interesante saber las dos cosas. So, eso es lo que me sorprendió. Lo demás era cómo cada persona tenía diferentes ideas.
Great. Thank you so much. And if we have one more episode 3 is going to be in 2 weeks, not next week because we have the elections next week, but on the 10th, and that will be our third and final episode. So please come join us for that last episode if you'd like. The information is Ricky. Oh, actually, I'll put my email here. There we go. And meanwhile, we're going to continue on with the show. Thank you.
Do you remember our earnestness, our sincerity in first grade when we learned to sing America?
The beautiful along with the Star-Spangled Banner and say the Pledge of Allegiance in America?
We put our hands over our first grade hearts. We felt proud to be citizens of America.
I said one nation invisible until corrected. Maybe I was right about America.
school days, dear old golden rule days, when we learned how to behave in America.
What to wear, how to smoke, how to devise our parents who didn't understand us or America.
Only later learning the banner and the beautiful live on opposite sides of the street in America. Only later discovering the nation is divisible by money, by power, by color, by gender, by sex, America.
We comprehend it now. This land is two lands, one triumphant bully, one still hopeful America.
Imagining amber waves of grain blowing in the wind, purple mountains, and no homeless in America.
Sometimes I still put my hand tenderly on my heart and somehow or other still carried away by America.
Gazelle, America the Beautiful by poet Alicia Ostreicher.
I'm like 70% Biden, 30% Trump. And as much as like it just makes me shudder to think about the idea that I'd vote for Trump, I am a bit worried about Biden. And I know the right definitely tries to say that he's not capable or ready to handle office, but you can just watch the videos and I am a bit concerned. I have certain family members that are definitely more left-leaning, certain family members that are definitely more right-leaning. And I think I tend to sway back and forth a lot. I think I tend to almost bridge the gap between a fair amount of my family members because I'll show you. I'm in my high school bedroom, which is basically a time capsule. I haven't touched it in about 6 years, which is really fascinating. Like, I have an American flag sitting above my bed. Like, that was something that I was just, like, I thought was cool, was raised around, especially coming from a relatively conservative household, or at least my parents. I think the issue is now that patriotism and nationalism are so skewed that it can be an issue. It depends how you're defining it. I consider myself patriotic. If I consider myself that I'm happy to be an American, I'm relatively proud to be an American. Yes, I mean, I've seen how bad it can get in other countries, like that really have the human rights abused. I mean, we have our own stuff that we need to fix here, don't get me wrong, but compared to some other countries out there, we have it so, so good. So am I grateful to be here? I am grateful to be an American citizen and have a fair amount of the rights that we do have, especially like my position is like a white female as well. Yes, like definitely, of course. Do I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done? Definitely. I think we always need to be striving to be better.
I classify myself as a rebel. I draw against the tide of what's going on. I live in a city of, it's 90% of the people get free school lunches. So it's mostly welfare people. The lady that lives next to me, she's been on welfare for 42 years. I work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and she lives better than I do. And I'm sick and tired of paying for her. You don't know. You're young. You won't. You'll understand when you're older because you'll be a worker. When he said all illegal Mexicans are rapists and drug addicts, yeah, that's something he should not have said. He could have said a lot of them are, which is true. They go through the Mexican border. That's getting solved. Trump got 29,000 Mexican soldiers on the border, so we don't have to deal with it. I would have to pay for these illegals' healthcare, food, housing. How is that fair?
like low income neighborhoods, and unfortunately they'll just like stick a train or a metro or a freeway, you know, and they face like the brunt of a lot of environmental issues. My dad did so much for the Latinx community. I remember I was so incredibly proud when Time Magazine named him one of the most influential Hispanics in America in 2005. My dad, he wanted so badly to live to see the next election. The previous mayor of LA spoke at his funeral and talked about how my dad would call him up during his chemo sessions and would talk about how he wanted to figure out more ways to mobilize Latinos so that we could beat Trump. I miss my dad a lot.
My mother confided in me that when I was 11 or 12, a cousin of mine who is 4 years older than I had an illegal abortion in our basement. And the way my mother brought it up to me, she says, "Do you remember when your cousin came to live with us for a couple of weeks because she was sick?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember her coming." And she said, "Well, she wasn't sick the way that we thought she was sick." And she explained to me that at the age of 16, she became pregnant and abortions weren't legal. And my dad was a surgeon. He was a plastic surgeon. And so he arranged for one of his friends, a gynecologist who lived down the street from us, to come over. And they performed an illegal abortion in our basement on a ping pong table as safely as they possibly could. It was a doctor who knew what he was doing. And unfortunately, because she didn't get a whole lot of aftercare and she went home, you know, my mother, her mother knew about it. My uncle did not know about it. It was a big secret. She became infected and needed IV antibiotics. Well, you know, almost died. And so she came because my dad was a doctor and able to take care of her. They told my uncle she had pneumonia or something, and she came to stay at our house for 2 weeks while she recuperated. So I feel as if I'm fairly certain that if Trump were to win the election, Roe v. Wade would be overturned when Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, and he appoints one of his people to be on the Supreme Court. And then we're going to go back to exactly where we were back in the 60s when people had legal abortions. And even when my cousin had an illegal abortion under the best of illegal circumstances, she still got sick and almost died. And had it not been for my dad being a doctor and taking her into the house, she probably would have died. So that's why it's important to me.
Donald J. Trump. The reasons why. All right. Best economy ever before the virus hit. GDP always over 3%. Obama said that to bring jobs and manufacturing back, you'd need a magic wand. And I guess Trump found the magic wand. He has the lowest unemployment for blacks, minorities, and women. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. At one point, we didn't even have enough people to do all the work. And then Senator Scott, a black senator from South Carolina, created opportunity zones for the blacks. Prison reform. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. Tax cuts. Biden, I have no confidence in at all. I mean, he had 47 years and he's just done nothing. And I can't understand his soul of America. I don't understand what that means. The rioting, the looting, and he wants to transform America to what? Cuba or Venezuela? You know, he wants to defund the police department. What are you going to do? A guy who chases his wife around with a knife, you call 911 and a social worker comes up with a clipboard and says, well, why do you want to do that, sir? And the other thing that really fires me up is, it's the bankers and Wall Street that create the middle class. Well, you know, not everybody has rich uncles that they get the money from. I guess, you have to go to the banks and Wall Street to get loans to start your little businesses, your little pizzerias, your little boutiques, to hire employees. So I don't know. I mean, to me, that really sounds stupid, but I have no faith in Joe Biden, and I have lots of faith in Donald Trump. The way he's handled the virus so far, and I mean a whole bunch of things, but yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Okay, well, I don't think we have any more questions for you.
Oh, hey guys, I appreciate whoever's on this call. I hope I didn't offend everybody here. I hope I didn't make any enemies. I just gave my opinion. I was hard and fast on certain things, but I'm open to negotiation and I listen. I don't try to impose my will.
No, not at all. No enemies made. Thank you so much for talking to us today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Have
Bye.
a good one.
Whew. Okay, I didn't agree with everything he said. But he was, I don't know, super polite, and I just felt like we had a good conversation overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got my absentee ballot in the mail this week and I dropped it off at the clerk's office in my county. Have y'all voted yet?
Yes, I'm also doing the absentee ballot route.
I'm voting in person November 3rd. Catch me in those poll lines.
I voted absentee as well. Okay. Yeah. Go vote.
So go vote.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Go
Go
vote.
vote.
Go vote.
Go
Go vote.
Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This is episode 2 of This Land, and here's a little round of applause for our awesome cast, and a round of applause for our awesome audience, both here on Zoom and on YouTube live streaming. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, watch the results. November 10th, we will present our 3rd and final episode of This Land, wherein we respond to what the election turnout is. So, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Get home safe. You probably are home safe. So, thank you. How does this work now? I guess I can